Neutral is a place of no movement. It means you're not making progress towards the goals or the ideas that are really important to you. Welcome to Beyond Neutral, where we talk about what gets you stuck and how we can shift and navigate the road forward. As leaders, as professionals in our careers, or just balancing and creating the kind of life you desire. I'm your host, Paula Reed. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to today's episode of Beyond Neutral. So I've talked in my last episode about this concept of emotional endurance and what that is. And emotional endurance is our ability to sit with a uncomfortable emotion or an uncomfortable feeling, emotional feeling, and forge forward in spite of it and focus on our goals in spite of this discomfort that we might feel from a particular emotion that we're experiencing. And the importance of that and why it really matters to develop strong emotional endurance. And I'm the reason that I'm talking about this, I've noticed so much in my coaching clients, and I've even noticed it in personal relationships, how the concept of being emotional sometimes has a negative connotation towards it, right? And wanting to really work with clients to understand a different way of thinking about that and to approach that in a different way. Because emotions, as I've said over and over again, they're data points. They're there for a reason. They're there to teach us things. They're there to tell us things, okay? And the importance is for us to understand our patterns of emotions and to be able to get the most out of them, to be able to utilize them the way that is beneficial to us. Because the ability to do that can have a very significant impact on how we show up in relationships, okay? And that can be professional relationships, that can be personal relationships, it doesn't matter. But emotions are really the bedrock of relationships. And so being able to navigate that effectively only makes us have better relationships, and better relationships usually benefit everybody, right? Constructive relationships is what I'm talking about. So what I want to talk about a little bit today is really the combination of this very powerful connection that exists between emotional endurance, courage, which is critical in building emotional endurance, emotional agility, and how that kind of evolves into confidence, which as a result gives us resilience. All right. So they all go together in a really significant way. So courage is our willingness to go forward in spite of a feeling of unease, or in spite of a feeling of even danger sometimes, right? That's what courage is, the ability to push forward regardless of our discomfort. Emotional endurance, to develop emotional endurance, obviously requires courage, because if you don't have it, you back away from it. If you don't have courage, what we tend to do when we're experiencing a difficult emotion and not wanting to experience that is we cope by removing ourselves from it. We cope by avoiding it. And here's the thing that happens when you do that. When you are experiencing an emotion and you make the decision, the conscious choice to just remove yourself from it and say, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to eat a quart of Ben and Jerry's and call it a day, or whatever it is. You're telling your brain that experiencing that emotion is dangerous. It's not good for you. Okay. And the thing about it is the emotion doesn't go away. Just because you're not dealing with it and you're not coping with it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's kind of like the auto recovery on your desktop, that you turn the computer off without saving something, but it's still there. It goes into this special file somewhere and it sits there, right? And what happens when we don't cope with it directly and deal with it directly is that it shows up in different ways. And that happens, sadness is a classic one where that happens, where, we, I think, are not conditioned socially to be okay with being sad and to just be sitting in the sadness. And there are things that make us sad. And we tend to push away from that. And as we push away from that, that sadness doesn't go away. It starts to show up in different ways. It shows up as anger. It can show up as shame. And then the challenge becomes, you've got these other emotions that are showing up, but they're really an expression of something else. And it can become very difficult to then unravel all of that. So That's why having the courage to sit and endure an emotion really matters, and not avoiding it, really kind of slogging it out, and really having the courage to develop your capacity to sit with that, to sit within that feeling of distress. And one of the examples that I gave last week when I talked about this is having difficult conversations. Conflict is a classic one, right? Where what is very difficult about conflict, or very difficult about difficult conversations, is sitting in that feeling that you're about to have, right? Quite often, if you can, always actually, if you can sit with that feeling and tolerate that feeling, it gives you the ability to stay in it, to listen to the other person, to have that conversation in a very complete way, which obviously you need to do, or it wouldn't be giving you the sensation that it's giving you, right? But the ability to kind of develop that endurance to be able to sit in that enables you to connect much more effectively in that difficult conversation, because you're not so uncomfortable that you need to pull away from it and you need to leave it. So, so that's like an example of emotional endurance and why it matters. I bring this up because so often in coaching conversations, I will be, hitting on a really difficult topic with somebody, and I can see them becoming emotional, becoming sad, becoming agitated, sometimes angry, whatever it is. And sometimes if I will lean in and say, wow, that seems really emotional for you, the reaction is like I swore at them, right? That emotion is a negative thing, and it's not. Okay. And so and there are many of us who just are so uncomfortable experiencing and feeling emotions that we back away from them. And I have several clients like this, right? Who the work is really on getting them to be comfortable experiencing the emotion they're having in order to learn what it's trying to teach you and move through it to a place of learning and a place of awareness and a place of growth. So having the courage to sit in emotional endurance matters tremendously. Emotional agility, which can come from those two practices, is our ability to navigate our emotions with flexibility and openness so that we're not afraid of them. We're not backing away from them. Okay. And courage is the catalyst in developing emotional agility, in being able to, I gave an example of a tremendous anxiety that I was having over traveling a couple of weeks ago. And the ability to just say, okay, I'm just anxious. This is what it is, gave me the ability to, by sitting in that, just recognizing it and acknowledging it and naming it. The more that I was able to do that and just say, you're just anxious. You're anxious, and that's what it is. And you know where that comes from. I was able to kind of turn the dial down on that. And I was able to really think about the things that were contributing to that. And in thinking about what was contributing to them, I was able to address them and be more logical, right? Be more intentional and flexible about what that really was, what was really going on with that emotion. All right. And that agility comes from practice. It comes from sitting in that sense, having the courage to do that, and then practicing it. Because the thing about confidence, or our ability to kind of look at those emotions and have the confidence that we're going to be able to respond to them rather than react to them, having the confidence to do that only comes from practice. Confidence is gained by action, right? And a lot of times, what we're backing away from when we're afraid to dive in and sit with emotion, what we're backing away from is this feeling of not being able to control our response. It's this fear that we're going to, our arms and legs are going to fall off, or we're going to melt in the moment, where we're not going to be able to control ourselves. We're going to be reactionary. Our anger is going to get the best of us. Our sadness is going to get the best of us. Our shame is whatever it is. Okay. And it's this fear that that's going to overwhelm us. And so by really developing agility, we are able to navigate those emotions with greater flexibility and greater openness. And by navigating, by having that courage and then practicing and finding out that, we don't melt into a puddle, that we're actually able to navigate that, it gives us confidence. And the more confidence we have, the more resilience we have. Okay? Because emotional resilience, which is the goal of all of this and everything that I'm talking about, emotional resilience is our ability to adapt and bounce back from the challenges that life gives us, or the setbacks, or the stressful situations that we might encounter at work, or we might encounter, in our personal life, in our personal situations, right? Emotional resilience comes from developing emotional endurance, having the courage to sit in it, and then becoming agile in how we manage and how we respond to what our emotions are offering us. So really, really, really important. Okay. And the one thing I can tell you, and as I've dealt with coaching clients on this, and I have a client that definitely does not like the word emotion. And it's interesting, in coach training, we talk in certain tools that we use, we talk about, is emotion a word that you can use with everybody? And it's not always a word that you can use with everybody, because some people just have this visceral reaction to it. And you can see them just kind of, like that. It's a swear, right? And so being able to kind of unpack that and recognize that it's not something to be feared, but rather something to be used as a way to understand and to gain insight and to navigate in a way more effective way, the more powerful you are and the more impactful you can be in relationships. Okay. Emotional endurance from courage creates agility, which creates resilience. And all of those things combined, as you really manage through that spectrum and that process, creates confidence. It's a ripple effect, right? It really allows you to be able to navigate emotions with agility and to become adaptable and way more self-assured, because you don't fear this feeling that you have. You don't fear what those things are offering you. Instead, you look towards them as a way to gain understanding and gauge what actions are appropriate based on how you're feeling and what the response is. So that was the thing I really wanted to discuss today, was, those concepts and how important it is to understand each phase of them and to be open to what they're teaching you and what you can learn from them. So the next time somebody suggests that you might be emotional, thank them. Okay, that's a gift. How do you want to use that gift to benefit you and to deliver the kind of connection and relationship that you're looking for? What do you need to do and to learn and to lean into in order to make that as effective as possible? So that's my thought of the day, just a topic that's really come up a lot in my coaching, and wanted to share that with you. So hope you're well. Hope you're driving down that road. If there's anything I can do to kind of keep you on your path, I'm always happy to talk about this topic and anything else that you feel is compelling. So thanks so much. Enjoy your day. Keep driving. Take care. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of Beyond Neutral. Make sure to visit our website, www.reidandco.com, for this week's show notes. That's REIDNCO.com. And if you found value in today's episode, I would really appreciate you giving us a rating on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share it with a friend. Also, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. All of this helps to support the show. Thanks so much. Take care.